Okay. No. I already closed my VLC. What? So, today we're going to show you how to make an enemy for the barbftr system that I have created. Now, you must have a copy of Flash Professional 8 to do this correctly. You may be able to use more modern Flash players, but I won't be able to integrate your character back into the system. I have recently created an option in barbftr that allows you to load external characters. So, for example, in the modern system, you can now actually plug in an external URL, which in this case would be testlizzy here. And then that character can be loaded as the external. And so that actually, I mean, I'm using Lizzie, but I could actually change all of her stats and whatnot. And life would be simple. But that allows people to extend it if they don't have Flash 8, basically. Not very much, but hey, it'll work. So, in Flash, the first thing you'll do is get a copy of the Monster Maker, which you can get referenced in the website on Fur Affinity or DeviantArt. So once you get that, you'll extract it and you'll have two flaws, which are Flash files. You can open these with Flash 8 by actually opening Flash 8 first and finding it, or just double-clicking on it generally. Might even be able to drag it over. It'll take a while to load, depending on your computer speed. And now you're presented with this mess. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Flash system, this is Flash Professional 8. And up here we have the File tab. And we have a bunch of layers. Layers are pretty easy to understand. Every individual layer can be toggled for visibility with this eye. You can click on the X's to show and hide layers as needed. You can also lock layers for editing, which is extremely important. You're going to need this in the future. So lock all the layers that you aren't screwing around with, and then you can unhide layers. Blah, blah, blah. But you don't care about any of this. This is the game itself, floating around up here. Obviously, you can left drag on this timeline up here and select frames. But we care about the enemies. So in order to do that, you'll want to make sure that your window library exists. If it doesn't, go to Window Library or hit Ctrl-L. It should pop up this library window. The library window is where all of the symbols for the game exist, including the enemies and the enemies you'll be making. Working around a library is a little bit like working in Explorer or whatever you use for your file system. You have folders, and in each folders are objects, which can be a movie clip, a button, or a symbol. So what we're going to do is there's an enemies X folder in the library. You don't want to mess with the other stuff yet. So there's a custom folder, or if not, you can actually click this little... No! Flash. There, okay. So, correctly, there's this little icon down here where you can create a new folder or a new symbol. Don't hit the trash can, that's a bad idea. So click on Enemies X and then add a new folder. Look what Flash did. It screwed you over. Get used to this idea. So, my new enemy. Give it a name. Well, let's drag it up into Enemies X. Okay, my new enemy. Now we have a folder. To make a new enemy, we need to make a new movie clip. So I click on this little tiny plus button, and it pops up this. Alternately, you can right-click on the folder and do nothing. Great. So let's click on the little plus icon instead. New symbol. I'm going to call it McMonster. All this other stuff doesn't matter for barbftr. It does for RX-8. So then this happens, okay? Let's drag it into my new enemy. So now you should have a folder and a movie clip. Now, when you have a movie clip in Flash, you have to know that you're editing that movie clip. And you can always go to Edit Document, which will take you back to the main document. Or you can double-click a movie clip, and why isn't that being displayed? Normally there's a thing up here that displays this, and if I can remember what it wasn't main. Do... No. No. Default. Where are you? None of those. Hooray. Scene? No. This happens a bunch. Flash is something I'm going to be very glad to be getting rid of. Ah, edit bar. Okay. So, we want window, toolbar, edit bar to be shown. This clearly shows you where you are in the Flash movie. I can click on scene 1 and go back to the scene I'm editing. I can double click on any movie clip in here, and I'm now editing that movie clip as it shows here. So, hopefully that's shown for you, and if not, you can always go to window, toolbar, edit bar. So now that I've double clicked on my monster clip, we have this blankness. There are a lot of requirements for making a barbftr enemy, and mainly they revolve around specific frame labels. In Flash, we're going to go through a little bit of how to use it. You have this thing, it's called the stage. It's this big empty area where you can draw stuff in. So go click on your rectangle and make a rectangle. Left click once, left drag, release. Now you can click your black arrow and left click the middle. Looks like it selects the fill. Left click an edge. Looks like it selects lines. If you double left click an edge, it selects all the connected lines. If you left click the fill and then left drag on the fill, you can move the fill around. You'll notice it ripped it right out of the lines. Now they're separate elements. If I left click the fill and then left drag it over the lines, guess what happens? If I left click out here, now it's destroyed those lines. Whoops. Interesting. So you can use these as little cut guides if you need to. So that's all nice and dandy. Let's draw another rectangle. I want it to be a different color. Well, if I want it to be a different color, when I click on the rectangle tool, down here there's a little paint bucket option. You can click on this for your fill color. You can click this directly and select any fill color you like. I hope this is displayed in the live stream and someone should tell me if it is. I'm going to select the purple. But if I wanted a very custom purple, there's this little button in the upper right you can click where you can actually edit your RGB values as you would expect. Okay. Now, if I draw a rectangle, it shows me that I'm using this purple fill color. Whoop-de-doo. Now, you're going to start learning hotkeys at this point because everything's going to be slow otherwise. V is the most important hotkey. Victor. V. You're going to be using that a lot. Left click V, click. I mean, everything you do is going to be about V all the time. So, let's say I wanted to left click this fill and change its fill color. Well, there's a few ways to do that. If you left click a fill color, you can then click on the paint bucket and select a different color for it. Whoop-de-doo. You can also click the paint bucket and then select the fill color and left click on the fill you want to paint. Easy enough. Now lines. Lines are special elements in Flash. They don't do the same thing as these. This is a fill. Fills operate very differently than lines. Lines don't actually have a volume per se, so you can basically not have a... If you zoom in on this line, it's going to stay the same thickness. Whereas if I tried to make a really thin rectangle that was some sort of line, and then I double click and tap delete to delete the lines, this line that I've made out of fills actually changes in size if I zoom in and out. Whereas the line doesn't. It's always 1 pixel thick. Always. No matter how far you zoom in. So those are two distinct graphic elements. Lines are more costly to draw than fills. Fills computationally are simpler because they don't scale with your view scale. So here's how we start manipulating this stuff. This is not a monster. This is just crap. I'm going to left drag using the arrows, so tap V, left drag. Now you can select whole rectangles. Delete. Whoop-de-doo. Control Z is undo as usual. You can also delete, edit, undo. Okay, let's pretend I want to draw some sort of generic two-legged reptilian monster. I like to start with circles, because circles are better for organics. So I'll left-click my circle. Let's make him, what color should we make him? Him, her, it. I don't know. Green's a good color for everything. Left drag a circle. Look, it makes ovals. How convenient. Not much. I'm going to left click this thing and left drag to zoom in. Magnifying glass is something you'll want to assign to a hotkey, but for some reason my Flash environment doesn't let me do that very effectively. I recommend going to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. You want View. Zoom in and zoom out have script commands, but they suck. Okay. Duplicate the current one. Got it. Macromedia Standard. Little button that says Duplicate. Click. Z is Controls. Alright. Okay, zoom in. Delete. I would like to add a shortcut. And I would like this to be Control W. And I would like zoom out to be Control Q. Again, you know, it's being a jerk. Change. Do you want to reassign? Yes. I don't use those other commands. When would you ever want to quit with the keyboard shortcut is my question. You already have Alt F4. So there we go. Now Control W. Control Q actually quits Flash. So that sucks. But since I'm left-handed on the keyboard, that makes sense for this configuration because all my other keys are there too. Okay. So now I can Control Q and Control W with the best of them. This is just a replacement for clicking the magnifying glass and zooming in. Note that that takes you like 10 times longer to mouse over here, click, mouse over here, drag, and click, as it would to quickly tap a key. This is very important for speed. Speed's what matters in Flash. So, now that we can zoom in, let's start over, and I want to make an oval. Okay, V, zoom in a little bit. Now I want to shape this thing into a dinosaur head. So far you haven't seen any evidence that I can do that. Well, with the V tool, if you mouse around, you'll notice the cursor changes when you're near the lines or edge of a fill. It gets this little funny curve icon. So when it does that, left drag. Hey look, you can adjust the shape really quickly. That's very convenient. Repeat this to your heart's desire. Now let's say that I'm bending this and it's like I want there to be more curvature here so I can actually make it look like a head. The quick way to do this is left drag from empty space over your shape so you select a piece of it. You'll notice that I've just selected a small amount of the curve. However, by doing this, Flash generates data. So now there's extra curve data that exists there that I can abuse. So if I want to detail like a little nose bump, come over here, left drag. Now I've got extra curve detail I can work with, and you can repeat this process pretty much indefinitely. That's how I've pretty much created all of the characters, is this process right here. Now there's a funny thing with heads, like drawing the head the first time is fine. He doesn't have a mouth. Well, let's give him a mouth. Well, how am I going to do that? I can't just like cut this and delete. That doesn't really work too well. You can, but let's do it my way, which is drawing lines. So we want to come over here and select the line tool, which is in. Notice when you mouse over these things, it tells you what key you can press. So in and V are another set of important hotkeys. V and in is something you'll swap between two when you're drawing. So in line mode, I can left drag to draw lines. And you'll notice if you left drag near another line, they'll snap together with a large circle. This means when I go back to V, I can left drag that point, and the lines remain connected. That's very convenient. That's also a sanity check to make sure you have connected the lines. Like if I did this, and I zoom out sufficiently, it might look like they're connected. Or worse, if I like drag them near each other or over each other slightly, that looks like they're connected, doesn't it? I can zoom in on that, like forever, and yeah, they're connected, but they're not. They're not connected at all. I can test that by mousing near one of these points and dragging. Obviously they're not connected. There's no way to tell that otherwise, mind you. Welcome to Flash. So, let's snap these together. Now they're connected. Good. Instead of using a circle, sometimes you can form stuff by just connecting lines. If you just tap in and start dragging lines around, left drag, 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 you can make a crude shape. And